The vanquishers arrive. The war chamber of the Draxian sovereignty gleamed with the light of 1,000 conquered worlds. Holographic displays floated in the darkness, each one representing a civilization that had bent the knee before the might of the Draxian Empire. Supreme Commander Vectrus stood at the center of it all, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the pale blue light of the tactical screens. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world where only the strongest survived, and that philosophy had carried them across the stars for 3 centuries. 164 victories. 164 civilizations that had either surrendered immediately or been crushed within days of resistance. The Draxian method was simple and brutally effective. They arrived with overwhelming force, demonstrated their technological superiority, and gave their targets a single choice: submit or be destroyed. In 300 years, not a single species had chosen destruction and survived to tell the tale. Vectrus examined the latest intelligence reports with his primary visual sensors. The target was a yellow star system on the outer edge of the explored galaxy. The inhabitants called it Sol. The third planet, a blue and green world they named Earth, housed the species designated as humans. The preliminary scans were promising. The humans were divided into nearly 200 separate political entities, constantly engaged in minor conflicts with each other. Their technology was primitive by Draxian standards. They had only achieved faster-than-light travel 23 years ago. Stumbling upon the technology through what appeared to be sheer luck rather than systematic development, strategic analyst Thurin approached with the final assessment datapad. Commander, the human civilization presents minimal threat potential. Their largest military vessels are approximately 1/10 the mass of our standard destroyers. Their weapons technology relies heavily on kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. They possess no unified command structure. Intelligence suggests they spend more resources fighting each other than they invest in space defense. Vectrus allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. This would be an easy conquest, perhaps the easiest yet. The humans would see the Draxian fleet, understand the futility of resistance, and surrender within hours. Victory number 165 would be added to the Wall of Triumph, and the sovereignty would gain access to a resource-rich system perfectly positioned for further expansion into unexplored space. Assemble the conquest fleet, Vectrus commanded. Standard deployment. 6,000 warships. I want this to be overwhelming and unmistakable. The humans need to understand immediately that resistance is pointless. The order rippled through the Draxian military hierarchy. Within 3 planetary rotations, 6,000 warships gathered at the staging point. Each vessel was a masterpiece of military engineering, equipped with energy shields that could withstand sustained bombardment, weapons capable of cracking planetary crusts, and faster-than-light drives that made them the most mobile force in known space. The fleet represented the accumulated military might of dozens of conquered civilizations, their best technologies integrated into Draxian designs. Vectrus stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, as the fleet prepared to jump. Around him, officers moved with practiced efficiency. Every member of his crew had participated in at least a dozen conquests. They knew their roles perfectly. This was not war. This was execution of protocol. All ships report ready. Commander, his navigation officer announced. Jump coordinates locked. Target, Sol system, third planet. Execute jump, Vectrus ordered. The universe twisted. For a moment that felt like eternity, and an instant simultaneously, the fleet existed in the space between spaces. Then reality snapped back, and 6,000 Draxian warships materialized in the outer reaches of the Sol system. Sensors immediately began cataloging everything they could detect. The small rocky planets closer to the star, the gas giants in the outer system, the asteroid belt that would provide excellent raw materials, And there, the third planet, Earth, hanging like a blue jewel against the darkness. Status report. Vectress commanded. All ships accounted for, Commander. Formation holding. We detect primitive sensor networks throughout the system. The humans know we are here. There are approximately 300 small craft in orbit around the third planet. Several orbital stations. A small colony on their moon. Nothing that poses a threat to this fleet. VKTR is studied the tactical display. The human defenses were even more pathetic than intelligence had suggested. A few hundred ships that barely qualified as military vessels. Some orbital platforms that probably mounted projectile weapons. It was almost sad. Almost open a communication channel, Vectress ordered. All frequencies. I want every human on that planet to hear this channel open. Commander. Vectress straightened, preparing to deliver the speech he had given 164 times before. It never changed. The words were ritual now, sanctified by generations of victory, inhabitants of the Sol System. I am Supreme Commander Vectress of the Draxian Sovereignty. Your system now falls under our jurisdiction. You have one planetary rotation to submit all military forces, governmental structures, and resources to Draxian authority. Compliance will result in integration into our empire. Resistance will result in extinction. This is not a negotiation. This is inevitable. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. Now came the waiting period. Usually, the targeted species would spend hours in frantic deliberation. Their leaders would argue, some would suggest resistance, others would counsel surrender. Eventually, fear would win. They always chose survival over pride. That was the nature of intelligent life. Survival came first. Commander, we are receiving a response. The communication officer sounded surprised. That was fast. On the main display, a human appeared. Male, judging by the intelligence files. Middle-aged by their species standards. He wore a military uniform of dark blue with insignia that marked him as high-ranking. His face was calm, almost unnaturally so. His eyes were the color of Earth's oceans, and they held no fear whatsoever. Supreme Commander Vectress, the human began. His voice was steady and professional. I am Commander Marcus Webb of the United Earth Defense Command. We have received your message and reviewed your demands. After careful consideration, we must respectfully decline. The bridge fell silent. Vectress felt his secondary hearts accelerate. Decline? Had this primitive species just refused the Draxian sovereignty? You appear to have entered our star system without permission. Webb continued, his tone remaining polite but firm. You have threatened our civilization with extinction. You have given us an ultimatum. I am authorized to deliver Earth's response. You have 1 hour to withdraw all vessels from the Sol System. If you do not comply, we will consider your presence an act of war and respond accordingly. This is your only warning. We strongly advise you to leave peacefully. The transmission ended. Vectress stared at the blank screen where the human's face had been. Around him, his officers exchanged bewildered glances. In 300 years, no species had ever responded like this. None had ever issued a counter-ultimatum. None had ever suggested that the Draxian fleet was in danger. Analysis, Vectress demanded. What just happened? Thyron accessed the cultural database frantically. Commander, human psychology files suggest they engage in something called bluffing. They pretend to be strong when they are weak. This appears to be an attempt to intimidate us with false confidence. Vectress felt his combat instincts settle. Of course, a bluff. These humans were simply posturing, trying to buy time. Perhaps hoping that a show of bravery would make the Draxians reconsider. It was foolish, but it was understandable. Some species could not accept their own insignificance gracefully. Prepare a demonstration, Vectress ordered. Target their lunar colony. I want a single shot, precise and devastating. We will show them what resistance costs. Then we will ask again. The weapon systems of the Eternal Dominion powered up. Targeting sensors locked onto the human colony on Earth's moon. It was a small settlement, probably housing a few thousand inhabitants. Its destruction would be a clear message. Surrender or face annihilation. Weapon charged, Commander. Target acquired. Awaiting your order. Vectrus raised his hand, ready to give the command that would begin Earth's education in the reality of Draction Power. Fire. The weapon discharged. A lance of pure energy, capable of vaporizing a small mountain, streaked toward the lunar colony. It would impact in seconds. The humans would see their settlement disappear in a flash of light. Then they would understand, but the energy lance never reached its target. Something intercepted it. Something that appeared between the weapon and the moon so fast that sensors barely registered the movement. A barrier of some kind materialized in space, absorbed the entire energy discharge, and dissipated it harmlessly. What was that? Vectrus demanded. Asterisk. Unknown. Commander. Analyzing. The sensors detect massive energy signatures activating throughout the system. They were there all along, but camouflaged. Commander, we are detecting weapons platforms. Hundreds of them. They were disguised as asteroids, debris, research stations. They are powering up now. On the tactical display, the Sol system transformed. What had appeared to be a primitive backwater suddenly revealed itself to be a fortress. Hidden weapons platforms throughout the asteroid belt came online. The orbital stations around Earth shed their civilian disguises, revealing military installations bristling with armaments. Ships that had been hiding in the shadows of planets and moons began moving into position, and there were so many of them. Far more than intelligence had reported. The 300 vessels they had detected were just the visible ones. There were thousands more, hiding, waiting. Commander, receiving new transmission from the human. Marcus Webb appeared on screen again. His expression had not changed. He still looked calm, professional, and utterly unafraid. Supreme Commander Vectrus, you fired on a civilian target. You attempted to murder thousands of innocent people. We consider this an act of war. You have broken the 1-hour deadline. We offered you peace. You chose violence. So be it. Webb leaned forward slightly, and for the first time, Vectrus saw something in those ocean-colored eyes. Not fear, not uncertainty. Something far more dangerous. Let me tell you something about humanity, Commander. We have been fighting wars since before we had written language. We have perfected the art of killing each other over 10,000 years. We know every trick, every strategy, every tactic. And 20 years ago, when we first achieved faster-than-light travel, we found something on Mars. Ancient ruins. Evidence that we are not alone in the universe. Evidence that space is dangerous. Webb's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath the words. So we prepared. Every nation on Earth contributed. We built weapons. We trained soldiers. We created a defense network specifically designed to fight enemies more advanced than us. We have been waiting for someone like you, Commander. Someone arrogant enough to think we would be easy prey. The display showed the Draction fleet, still in its traditional formation. Still confident. Still convinced of inevitable victory. You wanted a demonstration, Webb said quietly. Allow me to provide one. The transmission ended, and the Sol system erupted into violence. Weapons platforms that had been hidden for 2 decades fired simultaneously. Railguns that used planets as stabilizing bases launched projectiles at relativistic speeds. Energy weapons that humanity had reverse-engineered from ancient Martian technology discharged with devastating precision. Missile swarms erupted from every direction, each warhead guided by artificial intelligence that had been trained on thousands of combat scenarios. The Draction Vanguard, 500 ships that had been leading the fleet in perfect formation simply ceased to exist. They did not explode. They did not burn. They were there one moment and gone the next, reduced to expanding clouds of superheated plasma by weapons that struck faster than their shields could activate. Vectrus watched in horror as his perfect formation shattered. Ships scattered in every direction, abandoning discipline in favor of survival. Officers shouted reports, alarms screamed, and the tactical display turned into chaos. All ships, evasive maneuvers. Vectrus commanded, "Return fire. Destroy those platforms." But the humans had planned for this too. The weapons platforms were armored, shielded, and positioned so that destroying one would require exposing ships to fire from a dozen others. Human vessels, smaller and faster than Draxian warships, darted between the larger ships, firing at point-blank range before accelerating away. They fought like nothing Vectrus had ever seen. No formation, no traditional tactics. Pure aggression and unpredictability. "Commander, we have lost over 800 vessels in the first minute of engagement. Casualties are catastrophic. These weapons, we have never encountered anything like them." Vectrus felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Pure, cold, primal fear. The humans had been waiting. They had prepared. And they had lured the Draxian fleet into a trap so perfect, so complete, that escape seemed impossible. On the tactical display, more Draxian ships disappeared. Not destroyed, simply gone, as if they had never existed at all. And somewhere in the chaos, Marcus Webb watched from Earth's command center, his calm expression never wavering. The Draxians had come seeking victory, number 160-5. Instead, they had found something they did not know existed. They had found humans who were ready for war. The battle raged for 6 hours before Vectrus understood the terrible truth. This was not a battle. This was an execution. The Draxian sovereignty, masters of conquest for 3 centuries, was being systematically dismantled by a species they had dismissed as primitive. "Commander, we have lost contact with the entire 7th Fleet Division," his communications officer reported, her voice trembling. Last transmission indicated they were attempting to retreat to the outer system. They went silent mid-transmission. "How many ships?" Vectrus demanded. 412 vessels, Commander. All capital class. They just stopped transmitting. No distress signals. No emergency beacons. Nothing. VKTR is studied the tactical display with growing horror. The pattern was becoming clear. Draxian ships were not just being destroyed. They were disappearing. Sensors would track a vessel, show it taking damage, and then the signal would simply vanish. No debris field. No energy signature from a catastrophic explosion. Just empty space where a warship had been moments before. The humans were doing something unprecedented. They were erasing evidence. Every Draxian ship that fell was immediately swarmed by human salvage craft. Within minutes, the wreckage was being collected, processed, and removed. Damaged vessels that tried to retreat were pursued relentlessly, boarded, and captured. Crews that attempted to evacuate in escape pods found themselves tractored into human ships. The humans were not just fighting. They were harvesting. Commander, emergency transmission from Supreme Command, the communications officer announced. They are demanding a status report. VKTR is hesitated. What could he tell them? That the unstoppable Draxian fleet was being destroyed by a species that had barely mastered space travel. That his 6,000 warships were being reduced to scrap metal by creatures who fought without honor or traditional tactics. "Open the channel," he finally ordered. The holographic display shimmered, and Supreme Archon Kelphus materialized. The leader of the Draxian sovereignty was ancient. Her crystalline body dimmed with age, but her mind still sharp. She had presided over 50 conquests personally before ascending to the throne. Vectress, her voice cut through the chaos of the bridge. We have been monitoring energy signatures from the Sol system. Explain why we are detecting massive casualties. Supreme Archon, Vectress began, choosing his words carefully. The humans were more prepared than intelligence indicated. They possessed hidden weapons throughout their system. They lured us into an ambush. We are engaged in combat, but the enemy is using tactics we have never encountered. Casualties? Kelthus demanded. Vectress accessed the data, and his secondary heart sank. Approximately 3,200 vessels lost or missing. Another 800 severely damaged. The fleet is scattered across the system. We are attempting to regroup. The silence that followed was devastating. 3,000 ships. Half the fleet. In 6 hours. It was impossible. It defied everything the Draxian sovereignty had learned about warfare. How? Kelthus asked, her voice dangerously quiet. How have primitives destroyed half of our conquest fleet? They are not primitives, Vectress said, the words bitter in his mouth. They have been preparing for this. Their entire civilization has been building toward this moment. They fight without rules, without honor, without mercy. They attack from every angle simultaneously. They use weapons we cannot predict. And they are removing all evidence. Supreme Archon, they are not destroying our ships. They are making them disappear. Explain. When a vessel is disabled, human salvage teams immediately move in. They are harvesting our technology, our ships, everything. There is no debris field, no wreckage. Within minutes of a ship's destruction, all evidence is gone. It is as if the vessels never existed. Kelthus was silent for a long moment. Vectress could see her mind working, calculating the implications. If the humans were collecting Draxian technology, they would advance rapidly. If they were leaving no evidence, other species would only hear rumors. The psychological impact would be devastating. A fleet that simply vanished would become a legend, a warning. Asterisk retreat, Kelthus finally ordered. Withdraw all vessels immediately. Regroup at Rally Point Theta and return to Draxian space. We will reassess the situation. Supreme Archon, Vectress said carefully, the humans have been anticipating our movements. Every escape route we attempt, they have forces waiting. They are hurting us. Then break through, Kelthus snapped. Use whatever force necessary. I want that fleet out of the Sol system now. This conquest is aborted. Asterisk. The transmission ended. Vectress stood in the silence of his bridge, surrounded by officers who had witnessed the impossible. The Draxian sovereignty had just retreated for the first time in its history. All vessels. Vectress transmitted on the fleet-wide channel. Retreat order confirmed. All ships converge on Rally Point Sigma. We will form a defensive formation and withdraw to the jump gate as a unified force. Maintain discipline. Do not scatter. The fleet began to move, thousands of ships attempting to regroup. But the humans had been waiting for this moment. They had studied Draxian tactics for 2 decades, analyzing every conquest, every battle pattern, every retreat protocol. They knew exactly what Vectress would order. As the Draxian fleet converged, human forces struck with renewed ferocity. Ships that had been hiding in the asteroid belt emerged. Weapons platforms that had remained silent suddenly activated. The humans were not just attacking. They were conducting a coordinated operation of breathtaking complexity. Commander, sensors detect massive gravitic distortions near the jump gate, the tactical officer reported. The humans have deployed something. It is destabilizing the gate's quantum field. Show me. Vectress demanded. The display zoomed to show the jump gate, the ancient alien structure that allowed faster-than-light travel between systems. Around it, human ships were deploying devices that pulsed with dark energy. The gate itself was flickering, its normally stable field becoming erratic. "They are collapsing the gate," Thyron said in horror. "They are trapping us here, Dot. How long until it fails completely?" Vectress asked. "Analysis suggests 12 minutes, Commander. After that, the gate will be completely unusable. Any ships that attempt to jump will be torn apart by the gravitational shear." Vectress made the calculation instantly. His fastest ships could reach the gate in 10 minutes. Perhaps 1,000 vessels could escape before the collapse. The rest would be trapped in the Sol system with no way to leave. All ships. "Maximum speed to the jump gate," Vectress transmitted. "Ignore all other objectives. Break through any resistance. This is survival now." The remaining Draxian fleet, still over 2,000 strong, abandoned all pretense of military discipline and raced for the jump gate. Ships that had fought together for decades scattered, each one desperate to reach the portal before it closed. It was exactly what the humans wanted. The race to the gate became a killing field. Human forces had positioned themselves along every approach vector. Railguns fired with mechanical precision, each shot calculated to disable rather than destroy. Disabled Draxian ships drifted helplessly as salvage teams moved in. Those that tried to fight were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. The humans had been hiding their true force strength. There were not hundreds of ships. There were thousands, perhaps tens of thousands. Small, fast, numerous. Vectress watched his tactical display as ship after ship winked out. The numbers decreased with horrifying speed. 2,000 ships became 1,500. 1,500 became 1,000. 1,000 became 500. "Commander, the first vessels are reaching the gate," his navigation officer reported. "They are jumping." "Successful transit confirmed." How many made it through? Vectress asked. 40-7 ships, Commander. "The gate is becoming increasingly unstable. We estimate no more than 200 vessels will successfully jump before complete collapse." Vectress looked at his own position. The Eternal Dominion was still too far from the gate. Even at maximum speed, they would not reach it in time. He was going to be trapped here. His flagship, his crew, himself. All trapped in a system with an enemy that left no survivors. "Commander," receiving transmission from the human Webb, Marcus Webb appeared on screen once more. Behind him, Vectress could see a command center filled with humans working at stations. They looked tired but determined. This had cost them too. But they were winning. "Supreme Commander Vectress," Webb said. His voice held no triumph, no gloating, just professional courtesy. "Your gate will collapse in 4 minutes. Approximately 180 of your ships will escape. The rest will be trapped here. You have a choice to make. What choice is there?" Vectress asked bitterly. "You have destroyed my fleet. Surrender," Webb said simply. "Power down your weapons. Prepare to be boarded. Your crews will be treated as prisoners of war according to our conventions. You will not be harmed. You will not be tortured. You will be held until we reach an agreement with your government. Or you can continue fighting, and we will destroy every remaining ship. Your choice. Why?" Vectress demanded. "Why go to such lengths? You could have simply defended your planet. Why hunt us across your entire system? Why erase all evidence?" Webb leaned back in his chair, considering the question. "Because we needed to send a message, Commander. Not just to you. To everyone watching. Humanity is not weak. We are not divided when it matters. And most importantly, we are not prey. What happened here will become a legend." A fleet of 6,000 ships entered the Sol system. None returned. No wreckage was found. No bodies recovered. Just empty space and silence. Do you understand what that will do? Every species that considers attacking Earth will remember. The Draxians came with overwhelming force. They vanished without a trace. Vectress understood. It was psychological warfare on a galactic scale. The humans were not just defeating the Draxian fleet. They were creating a myth, a deterrent so powerful that no one would dare test it. "You have 60 seconds to decide," Webb said. "Surrender or die. Choose now." Vectress looked around his bridge. His officers, warriors all, looked back at him. They had followed him through dozens of conquests. They trusted his judgment, and they were afraid. For the first time in their lives, Draxian warriors knew fear. "All ships," Vectress transmitted. "Power down weapons. Prepare for boarding. We surrender." The words felt like poison, but they were necessary. His duty was to his crew now, not to his pride. The junk gate collapsed 30 seconds later in a cascade of gravitational waves that rippled across the system. 193 Draxian ships had escaped. 1,807 remained, now prisoners in a hostile system with no way home. Human ships approached the Eternal Dominion, boarding craft attached to airlocks. Vectress watched as soldiers in powered armor entered his bridge, their weapons raised, but their movements professional. These were not savages. They were disciplined military forces who had trained for this exact scenario. Marcus Webb did not come personally. He remained in his command center, coordinating the massive salvage operation. Draxian ships were being systematically stripped of weapons, technology, and anything else useful. Within days, there would be no evidence that a battle had occurred here. The humans were efficient. They were thorough. They were terrifying. Vectress was taken to a detention facility on Earth's moon, the same colony he had tried to destroy. The irony was not lost on him. The facility was clean, comfortable, even. The humans provided food, medical care, and treated their prisoners with respect. But they also debriefed every officer, gathering intelligence about the Draxian sovereignty, its military capabilities, its conquered territories, its weaknesses. 1 week after the battle, Vectress was brought to a communication room. Marcus Webb peered on screen, and this time his expression was different, harder, more intense. Supreme Commander Webb began. "We have finished processing the data from your fleet computers. We know everything now. Your empire's structure, your conquered worlds, your supply lines, your military deployments. We know where your home world is located. We know how to reach it. VKTR is felt his blood freeze. We are sending a message to your Supreme Archon," Webb continued. "A single ship, unarmed, carrying only a communication. We want to make something perfectly clear to your government. Earth is not interested in conquest. We do not want your empire. We do not want war. But if you ever threaten us again, if you ever send another fleet, we will not defend. We will attack. We will come to your home world. And when we are finished, there will be no wreckage, no evidence. Just silence." Webb leaned forward, his ocean-colored eyes cold and hard. "You came here seeking victory number 165. Instead, you gave us everything we needed to end your empire if necessary. Tell your leaders this. Tell them what happened here. And tell them that humanity remembers. We always remember." The transmission ended. 3 months later, the human courier ship reached Draxian space. It broadcast its message on all frequencies, ensuring every ship, every colony, every citizen could hear. Marcus Webb's warning echoed across the Empire. The message was simple and devastating. Asterisk. 6,000 ships entered the Sol system. Fewer than 200 escaped. The rest vanished. No wreckage was found. No bodies recovered. This is what happens when you threaten Earth. Stay away. Do not return. This is your only warning. The Draxian sovereignty held emergency sessions. Military analysts studied the fragmentary data from the surviving ships. Strategic planners calculated the cost of a second attempt. Every calculation reached the same conclusion. Another fleet would fail. The humans had Draction technology now. They were advancing rapidly, and they fought with a ferocity that defied all military doctrine. Supreme, Archon Kelthus made the decision that would define her legacy. Earth was declared Forbidden's territory. All Draction vessels were ordered to avoid the Sol system. The humans were to be left alone. No contact, no trade, no communication. The official record stated that the Conquest fleet had encountered unexpected resistance and been recalled. Victory number 165 was quietly removed from the list of achievements, but across the galaxy, the whispers spread. Species that had been conquered by the Dractions heard the rumors. A fleet had vanished. 6,000 ships had entered a primitive system and never returned. The stories grew with each retelling. Some said the humans had weapons that could destroy entire fleets in seconds. Others claimed they were a warrior race that had been waiting for worthy opponents. A few suggested they were not even from this galaxy at all, but something far more ancient and dangerous. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Humanity had prepared. They had studied. They had built weapons specifically designed to fight superior enemies. And when the test came, they had passed with ruthless efficiency. On Earth, life returned to normal. The orbital platforms were repaired. The weapon systems returned to standby mode. The salvaged Draction technology was reverse-engineered, studied, and integrated into human designs. Within 5 years, human ships would be as advanced as anything in the galaxy. Within 10 years, they would be superior. Marcus Webb retired from active service, but his strategy became the foundation of human military doctrine. Always prepare for the worst. Never reveal your full strength. Fight smart, not fair. And most importantly, make sure your enemies understand that attacking Earth is not a victory. It is the last mistake they will ever make. The Draction fleet became a ghost story, a cautionary tale told to young officers in military academies across the galaxy. They came seeking conquest. They found humans. And they were never seen again. No wreckage. No survivors. No evidence. Just silence. And in that silence, a message that echoed across the stars. Earth remembers. Earth prepares. Earth does not forgive. The Draction sovereignty had sought victory number 160-5. Instead. They became a lesson in why some battles should never be fought. And the galaxy learned to leave humanity alone. Asterisk.